Hi, Dr. Neil again here, and then today thinking about relationships and more specifically how we impact and how we influence um, one another, how we bring out the best or the worst in each other. Looking at relationships and the people that I've known and my own relationships as well, I've observed a few things. One of the things I've observed is that some people bring out the best in other people, and other people bring out the worst in other people. And since we can all be a mess at times, it seems to make sense that we should give careful consideration to what type of person we're choosing, whether it's a person who brings out the best in us or the worst in us. We should probably give equal consideration, I believe, to what type of person we are. And that's the part I think I'm going to talk about. The other is more obvious. Why is it so important that we are aware of the type of person we are? If we bring out the worst in a person, we need to make sure that the worst of that person is something we can deal with. Make sure that the worst of them is not beneath us. We also have to be careful if we're the type of person who brings out the best in someone else. We have to be careful because just as we can be challenged by a person who doesn't meet up to our standards, we can also be challenged. Our egos can be bruised by a person who soars too high. If you bring out the best in someone, you find out that their best is a little bit too good for you to handle. You don't feel up to the task. You don't feel equal to the challenge. Then there are challenges to that as well. So it can be cruel and foolish to not consider whether you can deal with the best of a person and the worst of that person. Likewise, uh, what does a person bring out of you? Uh, we've all had times when we've been with someone who makes us feel better than we were, makes us feel worse, that we behave or act in ways that they draw out of us the worst of us, and so we have to be challenged to consider this. I think that the language of being equally yoked is in some ways misinterpreted. I don't believe being equally yoked is about being equal, being the same, as much as it is about being compatible, being equally yoked emotionally, and emotional includes maturity. A person who is mature yoked with a person who is immature, it's very difficult in challenging situations to be on the same page and to press through things when the mature person wants to listen and be patient and be heard and hear the other person, and the immature person simply wants to say anything you said, well, you too. And so it's impossible, um, close to impossible, to work with a situation like that. So emotional maturity is important. All of the emotional parts of being on the same page, both uh, emotionally and socially. You can be unequally yoked socially in terms of the things that you've been exposed to and the things that you understand, your worldview and cultural experiences can be vastly different and create challenges that you don't realize, because when you first meet, you meet in a very narrowly focused context, and then suddenly you move out of that context and you begin to build relationships with your friends and his friends or her friends, and you find out that this other part of the person beyond what you've experienced so far is outside the scope of your experience. Above, beneath, or beyond doesn't matter. It still creates the same type of challenges. So, being equally yoked socially, emotionally, intellectually as well. And you don't want to have you can, but it's challenging to have a person who is a bookworm and a learner and academic who cares about things that academics care about, and a person who really basically would just as soon sit around and sit in front of a TV for 24 hours a day. Challenging doesn't seem to be a problem when you're at the club, but when you get home, it doesn't seem to be a problem when you're visiting, but when you get home, every day, we got to go out somewhere. We got to go. We got to do something. Sitting around the house all the time. I don't want to go. Ain't nothing out there. I'm tired. My feet hurt. It's a different thing. You have different intellectual attitudes, different emotional, different social, and then there's spiritual. How often have you seen someone who seems to be on the same page? They seem to be cool until you get to the point of talking about where they are spiritually. And how many couples do you know that are on different pages spiritually? One person may be spiritually less mature, and the other person may be spiritually mature and act as though Um, they act as though they are somehow God's gift, and that they are the arbiter of faith within their household, and so they're looking down their nose at the person. You get all kinds of problems with people being not on the same page spiritually, um, and so emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, socially, doesn't matter. We need to be on the same page. If you can consider this, I don't believe that there's a secret to success in relationships, but I believe there are elements to success. And I think being yoked with someone that you're on the same page with in terms of your um, emotional and your spiritual and your physical, your intellectual, your social is important. And I think it's also important to consider um, whether or not the person is someone that brings out the best in you and makes you challenged to step up and do better and do more and be more, or if it's a person that somehow brings out the worst in you and um, always your raw emotional responses. You need to consider that. And you need to consider if you're the type of person that brings out the best in people or the worst in people. And so those are things that there are no magical answers to, but just things to consider. And I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Thank you for joining me today. Bless you, and we'll talk again soon. Bye bye.